One when I agreed to retake classes with my sister. My parents finally smiled with relief. They decided to take me on a trip abroad. But the next morning, my parents were gone, leaving me alone in a foreign country. That evening, I saw my sister's post. It was a photo of her picking up my parents from the airport. The caption said, "No matter how far the distance, those who truly love you will come to be with you." I immediately gave it a big like, commenting, "Wishing your family happiness." What they didn't know was that I'd been guaranteed admission to Qingdao University and had already received the acceptance letter. On my computer, the numbers counted down, 10, 9, 8. When it hit 0, the college application portal closed abruptly. Looking at the blank application and the close window post-deadline, my parents looked content. My sister scored 170 on her exam this year. She wanted to repeat the grade, so my parents made me repeat it with her to help her study since I scored 710. "Lily, your sister is still young. She can really improve with another year of studying," they coerced me. "You have to help her, you owe her this. If you agree to repeat the grade with her, we'll take you on a trip abroad." To prevent me from applying to colleges, they watched over me every single day. Only when the application deadline passed did they relax. So pleased with themselves, my parents took me out of the country. But the next morning, they disappeared, leaving me behind. I called them, but the call wouldn't go through. I asked at the front desk and found out that they had checked out. It wasn't until I saw my sister's update that I realized they had returned home overnight. Alone in a hotel abroad, I felt a strange fear. I'd never traveled far, let alone to another country. Before this, the furthest I'd ever been was the 500 kilometers to my sister's place. Watching people pass by, I was in disbelief. I couldn't believe my parents abandoned me in a foreign land. I, their actual daughter. Slowly making my way back to my room, those mere meters felt exhausting. I collapsed on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling, tears soaking my pillow. Once upon a time, I was their little princess. That all changed when I was 10, and Linda joined our family. My parents focused entirely on her, and I became invisible in our home. Unwilling to lose all their affection, I worked hard in school. From primary through high school, I was always a star student. But my good grades didn't earn me any parental love. I don't know how long I lay there when my phone rang. It was Mom. I sprang up, but before I could speak, she started scolding me. "Lily, what were you thinking? You know Linda's depressed. How could you provoke her like that?" I was stunned. Dad's displeased voice came on. "Linda treats you like her real sister. We're a family. Your comment on her post was out of line. Now she's upset and her depression's acting up," Mom said coldly. "Apologize to Linda, or you're no longer our daughter." My excitement was like a bucket of cold water splashed over me, leaving me chilled to the bone. They didn't even remember that I was all alone in a foreign country. They didn't realize I could be scared and lonely, and also wanted my parents' company. Just because Linda shed a few tears, they threatened to disown me unless I apologized. I didn't have the energy to argue, and I hung up without a word. My heart felt dead. In efforts to fit in, and hoping to regain even a little love, I've always tried to please my parents and overlooked Linda's provocations. None of it mattered. Even the trip abroad I earned by agreeing to repeat the grade was ruined by Linda's simple complaint. If all my efforts were futile, why bother? Fortunately, I still had a backup plan. I packed up, ready to go. Since I'm here, might as well enjoy my time. Alone in a foreign country, but my English is pretty good, so everyday conversation wasn't an issue. I didn't apologize, but I deleted my comment to avoid endless blame from my parents. From city to city, I wandered through bustling crowds. I've seen loving parents with their kids and homeless people on the streets. Even in a crowd, I felt inexplicable sadness. I have parents, my biological ones. But after turning 10, I felt much like a beggar alone on the streets. After 10 days, it was time to go home. Perhaps alerted by the boarding notice, my parents finally remembered that they had another daughter across the ocean. Mom called. "Did you have fun abroad? Your flight's today. We'll pick you up when you arrive." After a long flight, I landed, only to find no one there to meet me. Mom texted, "Linda's been upset because of your comment, and her depression's been acting up. Linda doesn't want to see you. Find a place to stay on your own. I was stunned. 10 days. They left me alone abroad for 10 days. When I finally returned, they didn't come to pick me up, ask about my time away, or care if I was exhausted. Just because Linda said she didn't want to see me, I couldn't even go home. They say no parent doesn't love their kid. I thought leaving me alone abroad was heartless enough. Only now do I see how redundant I am in my own family. Luckily, I made up my mind to let go. Otherwise, I might have ended up depressed, like really depressed. Maybe feeling a bit guilty. Dad sent me $2,000. Lily, don't overthink this. You know, because of your uncle, your mom. Just have fun for a few days. Once they calm down, they'll let you come back. Looking at the balance on my phone, I smiled knowingly. This was perfect. I wasn't done having fun yet. I slung my backpack on and stepped into the airport, off on another adventure. A week later, Linda's anger finally simmered down. I got a message from Mom. Even though you didn't apologize, Linda's grown up enough to forgive you. You can come back now. Stop causing trouble. If you upset your sister again, I won't let it slide. At that moment, I was lounging lazily under the sun on a beach in Sanya. I read her message, feeling neither anger nor irritation. I just replied, I'll come back a bit later to avoid upsetting her fragile feelings again. I muted my phone, put it down, and shut my eyes, sinking into relaxation. The sun was shining, the sea breeze was gentle, and people around me were laughing and playing on the beach. Once I decided to stop wasting my energy on pleasing others and worrying about losing or gaining, life seemed so much more enjoyable. With the sound of the waves lulling me, I drifted into a sweet sleep. When I woke up, there were a dozen missed calls and several WeChat messages. Just as I expected, my response had set my parents off again. Lily, you're not a child anymore. Act your age. Linda is your sister. How could you say such things about her? You're an adult and still throwing tantrums. Look at your sister. She's so well behaved. Tutoring is starting soon. Come back and help your sister with her studies. I realized they didn't want me back because they cared or because Linda forgave me. They just needed me to help Linda. Then came a voice message from Linda, sounding pitiful. I'm sorry, Lily. It's all my fault. If I caused any trouble for you, I'll tell Mom and Dad I'll leave, okay? It's all because I'm not good at studying. Now you have to retake the year with me. If you don't want to, then you don't have to really. I could hear Mom's angry voice in the background. Linda, don't be upset. Mom will never leave you. The application deadline has passed. What else can she do besides retake the year with you? Don't worry about her. She'll come back obediently after a while. Listening to their voices made me feel sick. Linda's depression seemed to have a switch, and it turned on whenever our parents tossed some concern my way. All through high school, Linda slacked off and scored only 170 on her exams. Yet she chose to redo the year. She had no intention of getting into college. She was just using her parents' doting behavior to drag me into repeating the year with her, wrecking my chances of going to college. And my parents, thinking the college application deadline had passed, stopped being considerate towards me. I casually texted back, I'm not throwing a fit, just all my travel tickets and stuff are booked. I'll return once I've had enough fun. Mom sent a bunch of critical messages in return, which I ignored and moved straight to the trash. Soon after, I got a notification of a money transfer from Dad. That's his thing. Standing by while Mom criticizes me, watching Linda mess with me, then sending me money to act like nothing happened. That's about the limit of the love he has for me. 2 weeks later, close to when college was starting, I went back home. When I opened the door, I saw a big meal spread out on the table and a fancy cake beside it. Mom, Dad, and Linda were happily chatting away. As soon as I walked in, Linda pouted. Mom glanced at me without saying a word, while Dad broke into a smile, getting up and hurrying over. Lily's back. Sit down and eat. You've been out for so long. You must be exhausted. You look tanned and thinner. My eyes caught the cake on the table, and I zoned out a bit. Today was my birthday. I imagined they knew I'd be back today, and specially got a cake for me. Mom's voice pulled me back to reality as she subtly nudged the cake toward Linda. Linda wanted a do-over for her birthday cake, since her birthday fell on exam day. She didn't even remember it was my birthday. But she used to remember. Before I turned 10, she would prepare days in advance for my birthday, get me presents, and invite my friends over. I always had such wonderful birthdays. But that stopped when Linda joined our family. Dad suddenly remembered after a while, slapping his forehead. "Oh right. It's Lily's birthday too. Share the cake you too." Linda's face immediately dropped, and she looked at Mom with teary eyes. Mom gave Dad a look and glanced at me a bit awkwardly. "This cake is for Linda. If you want cake, I can order one for you later. Don't take from your sister." I paused for a moment before pretending everything was fine and heading to my room. "No need. I'm not a fan of cake." Mom stood up suddenly, her tone sharp. "Lily, don't start causing trouble as soon as you're back. She's your sister. You should let her have it. It's what you owe her." Every time Linda got upset, Mom's go-to line was, "It's what you owe her." But do I really owe her anything? I glanced at Linda, catching her smug smile, full of victorious mischief. It felt suddenly sad. In this house, as long as Linda played the unhappy card, I was wrong no matter what in Mom's eyes. I didn't respond, just headed straight into my room. Linda's timid voice trailed after me. "Mom, it's my fault again making Sis upset. Today's her birthday. Maybe I should invite her to have some cake." Mom's voice was soft yet angry. "Still, our Linda is so understanding. Don't mind her. Comes back and acts all high and mighty. Who's she trying to impress?" Dad coughed, trying to explain for me. "Maybe she's really tired. She'll be okay after a rest." Mom didn't pay me any mind, and just told Linda to go eat. Before long, the house was filled with laughter again. But now this home and this laughter just aren't mine anymore. Walking into my room, I was shocked by what I saw. My blanket was tossed carelessly on the floor, smeared with dirty footprints. My treasured gifts were thrown on the ground, shattered to pieces. These were birthday gifts from my parents before I turned 10, and I had kept them safe all these years. No one remembered my birthdays anymore. On each birthday, I would hug those gifts and remind myself that my parents still loved me. I felt frantic, and immediately opened my bookshelf. Luckily, my books were untouched. She never liked books anyway. I searched through the pile to find my acceptance letter from Tsinghua University. As a student who got in with a recommendation, I received that letter over a month ago. But to keep from upsetting Linda, I kept quiet. I took the college entrance exams just to prove to myself I could. My scores were 710, and my parents were thrilled. Then they got the idea that maybe I could stay and tutor my sister during her retakes. I almost agreed once, thinking if a year in exchange for my parents' love was worth it. Now I realized that was all a fantasy I cooked up. I carefully put my acceptance letter in my bag, packed a few clothes, and walked out. The laughter from the dining room stopped abruptly. Dad looked a bit flustered at my backpack bulging. "Lily, what are you doing?" I ignored him and gave cold look to Linda. "This home, it's all yours now. You sure played the part well. So you win, happy now?" Linda's expression changed, eyes welling up with tears. "Sister, don't you like me?" "Boo-hoo, I just love Mom and Dad so much. I never meant to compete with you." Mom's face twisted in anger, and she scolded me. "Lily, what's gotten into you? Your sister only broke some of your things by accident during a seizure. And you want to run away from home? Can't you give us some peace? You just got back, and now you're bullying your sister. Apologize to her right now." She knew. She knew what Linda did in my room. I just didn't know if she understood that those gifts Linda destroyed were my only remaining connection to this family. I said nothing more and walked straight to the door. Mom shot up from her seat, her voice cold. "I told you to apologize to your sister. Did you hear me?" She yanked at my clothes with such force it ripped, exposing the scars on my back. Mom was stunned and mumbled, "Lily, what's this?" I pulled away from her, fixed my shirt, and coldly turned back. "This is what you always said I owed Linda." Mom grabbed my hand urgently. "Lily, please tell me what happened." Before I could respond, Linda, who was smirking at me the whole time, suddenly stood up with tears in her eyes, looking devastated. "Mom, Dad, don't you love me anymore? It's all my fault. Making Sis misunderstand you. That's why she's leaving. I should just die. Then Sis won't be sad anymore. And you won't be torn anymore." Linda dashed to the window, acting like she was gonna jump. Mom's face went pale with fear, letting go of my hand and rushing to the balcony. Linda, don't scare me. Mommy loves you, you're my dearest. She reached out and grabbed Linda, who pretended to struggle before collapsing in Mom's arms, sobbing. Dad was a bit slow on the uptake. By the time he moved, Mom had already saved Linda. He looked at me, helpless. Lily, you've gone too far this time. No matter what, you shouldn't hurt your sister. Go apologize to her and your mom. But what have I done? I haven't done anything. It was Mom who tore my clothes. It was she who asked about my scars. I didn't do anything wrong, but they're used to blaming everything on me. Disappointment washed over me, leaving me feeling helpless. Linda was still sobbing while sneaking glances at me, eyes filled with worry. I knew what she was scared of, that I'd reveal the truth about my scars. But Mom and Dad were so occupied with Linda that I was just a pawn to soothe her. Her fears were unfounded. I had no intention of rehashing the past. Linda is actually my cousin, my uncle's daughter. When I was 10, my parents, busy with work, left me at my uncle's place. Later, while searching for me, my uncle fell from a cliff and died. Linda came to live with us and became my sister. Mom blamed me for my uncle's death, saying if it wasn't for me running off, he would still be alive. But she never asked why I ran. After Linda came, my uncle became a forbidden topic. Whenever I brought up that summer, Linda would cry and throw fits, and I'd get scolded. Dad, being considerate of Mom's feelings, stopped questioning too. To 10-year-old me, my parents were everything. I didn't dare upset them, so I buried the pain deep inside. I eventually became numb. I tried my hardest to win their love back. But no matter how much effort, I only existed in the gaps of their family of 3. At this moment, I decided to let go, not wanting to disrupt their perfect little family. Seeing my silence, Dad's eyes turned impatient, suppressing his anger. Lily, go apologize to your sister now. If her depression gets worse and she jumps again, your mom will never forgive you. I looked at him and suddenly chuckled. Jump. It's only the 2nd floor. Jumping might kill a few ants at best. Quit staring at me. I'll be out of your hair soon. I pointed at Linda. She's really putting on a show. You better go to her. Linda's been eagerly waiting for you to star in this heartwarming family drama together. Dad was speechless, and Mom was shaking with anger, pointing at me accusingly. Lily, your sister is in this state because of you, and you're just making cynical remarks. I couldn't hold back anymore, staring directly at her, my voice almost hysterical. I caused this. Tell me exactly what I did to make her like this. When we got into this house, you said the cake was hers. I left it alone. She trashed my room, and I didn't say a word. You gave her all your love, and I had no complaints. I stopped competing, let her have you. Yet she's still unhappy. What more do you want me to do? The room went quiet. Linda stopped sobbing. They didn't expect the usually meek, compliant little lamb to have a temper. Maybe my shouting had an effect. They were stunned deep in thought. But since coming home, they couldn't figure out what I'd done wrong. Dad looked at me awkwardly. Lily, it was wrong of me to blame you. Mom's expression was uneasy. Lily, the apology remained stuck in her throat, never spoken. In her eyes, I was the one who'd wronged her precious sibling. How could she apologize to the culprit? I laughed coldly. No need for apologies. I pushed the door and walked out, but Dad stopped me. Lily, where are you going? It's Dad's mistake, don't be upset. Your clothes are torn, go change. It's been so long since we were all together as a family. I'll make you all something nice for dinner. I went back to my room, changed, and came out again with my backpack on. Dad was waiting at the door. Lily, you must be exhausted from being on the move so long. Why don't you rest, and I'll call you for dinner? He sighed. Lily, because of your uncle's situation, we haven't been as attentive to you as we should have been. Give Dad a chance to make up for it. Well, it seemed like I wasn't leaving today. Plus, today's tickets to Qing University had sold out. So I just went back to my room and closed the door. Lying in bed, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. After a while, quiet voices came from outside. Mom was still a bit upset. What's gotten into Lily? Even if she resents us, she shouldn't tease Linda like that. How can she be so inconsiderate? Dad shushed her. Keep your voice down. Honestly, we've overlooked her over the years. Her repeat studies are about to start. Don't push her away. She still needs to tutor Linda. She dares. Her applications aren't even submitted. Does she have any options besides repeating? Linda's timid voice chimed in. It's my fault. My stupidity is making sis repeat. I'm so sorry. Mom quickly comforted her. Linda, don't overthink it. She owes you this. At this point, all my anger and sadness were gone. I didn't even have the energy to cause a scene. I'm leaving soon anyway. Let them say what they want. I put on my headphones and listened to music, allowing the soothing sounds to lull me to sleep. When I woke up, it was almost dusk. Dad came in. Lily, what do you want for dinner? Before I could answer, Linda shouted from the living room where she was playing on her phone. Dad, I want steamed shrimp. Okay. And garlic scallops. Okay. And braised ribs. Okay. And okay. Linda listed 7 or 8 dishes in one breath, and Dad agreed to all. Finally, he looked at me. And you? Anything's fine, I shrugged, answering indifferently. Hearing my answer, Mom's temper flared up again. Lily, are you still mad? Your father and I agreed to make it up to you. What more do you want? I shrugged neutrally. You're always saying I should give in to my sister. When I don't, you say I'm being unreasonable. When I do, and listen to everything she wants, is that wrong too? Mom's face flushed with anger, and Dad quickly went out to calm her. I closed my bedroom door, hearing her voice trembling with anger. Look at her now. We promised to make it up to her, but she's acting so shut off. I'm her mother. She's the one who wronged Uncle, and now she wants to kill me with worry. To her, I was the one who wronged Uncle, who messed up Linda's life. She didn't even remember the shock she felt seeing the scars on my back earlier this afternoon. To her, I had absolutely no place in her heart anymore. They still called me for dinner. It was no surprise that all the dishes were Linda's favorites. I've loved spicy food since I was about 5 or 6. The first time I tried chili peppers, I fell in love. Then every meal had my favorite chili peppers, until Linda came at when I was 10. She couldn't handle spicy food, so in our house, I lost the chance to eat what I loved. They said they'd make it up to me, but for so many years, they hadn't paid attention to whether the food was to my taste. Perhaps they didn't even care. With me at the table, the atmosphere felt tense. Even though the food wasn't to my liking, I ate a few mouthfuls. As soon as I put down my chopsticks, Mom looked upset. Lily, what's your problem? Your dad made this dinner for you, and you're being so ungrateful? Dad and I promised to treat you and your sister equally. What more do you want? Made for me. I almost laughed out loud. The whole table was filled with Linda's favorites. I'd just eaten a bit less because I didn't like it, and that was considered ungrateful. Yet whenever Linda wouldn't eat, they'd always ask with concern whether the food wasn't to her liking and remake a dish based on her preferences. Is this what you call fair treatment? To Mom, it seemed no matter what I did, it was wrong. I didn't want to argue with them anymore. Just calmly explained it's hot, and I'm not hungry. Plus, I'm on a diet. I went back to my room and closed the door. The laughter from outside got louder. It seemed clear that in this family, I was the extra one. After dinner, they went for a walk, just the 3 of them, without asking me to join. And honestly, I was perfectly fine with that. I don't want to be the third wheel messing up a family's vibe. So I pulled out my phone and ordered myself a birthday cake. They forgot it was my birthday today, and Mom's promise of buying a cake was just lip service. If nobody loves me, I gotta treat myself extra nice. When I left in a hurry this afternoon, I forgot to pack a lot of things. I left the clothes. My few pretty dresses were already cut up by Linda. I opened my bookshelf and flipped through my school graduation notes. The first page was a note from my homeroom teacher. Even though I've read it many times, it always brings tears to my eyes. Lily, you're the most outstanding girl I've ever met. Clouds might bring rain, but the sun will eventually disperse the clouds. You're like sunshine, and will find your spring someday. My teachers were somewhat aware of what I was going through at home. Linda was only a half-month younger than me. Her grades were poor, but her parents paid a huge sum to get her placed in my class. She knew her parents adored her, so she'd pull all sorts of pranks on me. Once she put a mouse in my desk, and I cried for half a day. My teacher checked the surveillance and called my mom to the office. But instead of addressing Linda's actions, she defended her. They're sisters. Linda couldn't mean any harm. She's just playful, and Lily is too sensitive. Making the teacher worry over this is too much. Lily needs to be disciplined. My teacher was shocked. He couldn't fathom a parent being unsupportive of their child, being more affectionate towards their foster daughter. His hands were tied. He reached out to the principal, and after a bit of persuasion, got Linda moved to a different class. My school life finally found some peace. I packed up my notebook, along with a stack of certificates, into my suitcase. These were the few joys from my school years. The next morning, my parents went out with Linda. Dad left me a message. Linda's in a bad mood. We took her shopping. We left you breakfast. Help yourself when you get up. I opened the door and saw the breakfast on the table. They hadn't cleaned up yet. 3 empty takeout boxes were still there. One had a few spoonfuls of porridge and a partially eaten bun. No need to ask Linda's work. She always finds ways to gross me out. I chuckled. Well, them being away when I leave with my suitcase saves me the talk. They expect me to stay and help Linda with her studies. I couldn't just walk away easily in their eyes. After getting ready, I took my suitcase and bag and left with no hesitation, no attachment. The train sped on, scenery flying past, just like my growing distance from this family. Hours later, I arrived in the city where I'd be attending Tsinghua University. As soon as I got off the train, Mom called, her tone sharp. Lily, where have you gone off to? The cram school is starting soon. Go to the bookstore and pick some prep books for your sister, she said. I replied calmly, I'm not coming back. As for tutoring Linda, you guys better find someone else. I can't tutor someone who scored 170. Maybe she'd do well in performing arts, with her talent for faking sick. Mom was furious, her voice rising. Lily, what do you mean by this? Are you really picking a fight with me? You spoke that way about your sister, yet she looks up to you as her real sister. I've found a private school for you too. You share a class. You need to come back today. She insisted. For what? I scoffed. To be Linda's servant or toy. My refusal was firm. Coming back is not an option. Mom's voice turned into a raging roar. Lily, after all we've done for you, you won't even accompany your sister for 1 year? You're ungrateful. I laughed sarcastically. Done for me? Sending me off to a foreign country alone is what you call being good to me. When you asked me to help Linda repeat a year, I was tempted. If a year could earn back my parents, I was willing. But how did you treat me? Mom was silent for a moment, before angrily speaking again. Helping your sister get into college is the least you could do after killing your uncle. With no restraint, my voice grew angry. You always blame me for your brother's death. But have you ever asked for the full story? As for Uncle, he doesn't deserve it. Mom, fuming, was at a loss for words. Dad comforted her. Honey, don't be mad. Lily just needs a little time. She hasn't even filled in her applications. She'll be back to repeat studies soon. Mom screamed at Dad. And Jean, stop sending Lily money. She thinks she's so capable, freeze her card. Let's see how long she can act tough. Evadante poor. My parents are business owners. When I was young, they were busy, dropping me off at my uncle's during vacations. After he passed away and Linda joined the family, they stopped working, focusing solely on her. Our bank account was enough to keep us comfy for a lifetime, but they love using money to control me. Whenever I upset Linda, they'd cut my funds. If they realized they were wrong, they'd throw some cash at me as compensation. I said nothing more and coldly ended the call. Once at the school, I applied for a student loan. My card still had a few thousand left. Though not yet frozen, I'd rather not depend on them anymore. I posted online looking for part-time jobs. Thanks to the Tsinghua name, I quickly landed a few weekend tutoring gigs. My income is more than enough to support my college life. For a few days, Mom didn't message or call me. How could she possibly back down when she thought it was my fault in the first place? Dad would occasionally text to ask how I was, and I'd just reply with a simple "I'm fine." The world quieted down, and classes at my new college began. So I threw myself entirely into my studies. A week later, Mom called. I didn't pick up, just hung up. Shortly after, a message came through from her. Lily, why didn't you tell us you were off to college? Linda's depression has flared up again. You promised to stay with her. Why would you upset her like that? It didn't surprise me that they knew I was attending college. Getting into a top school is a huge honor back home. If they'd just cared about me a little more, they would have known about my admission. But Mom was trapped in her own logic, convinced I was trying to upset Linda. I didn't reply and tossed her message into the trash. A month later, while I was in class, Dad called. I ignored it. Soon he messaged, "Lily, call your mom. She's having a breakdown. Don't you have Linda? She'd be more useful to you. Linda's been arrested." It was from him that I learned about Linda's situation. They'd paid a hefty price to get her back into a private school to repeat a year. But she wasn't interested in studying. Friends from back home had heard she was living in the city with rich new parents and praised her. Linda snuck out of school and went back home. To show off, she had a drug party with her friends. In a daze, she got into a fight and seriously injured someone. So the police arrested her. Mom, after finding out Linda went missing, caused a scene at her school just as the police called. She rushed to the police station back home and finally saw Linda behind bars. Coincidentally, the officer handling her case was the same one from when my uncle died years ago. It was from him that she learned what kind of person my uncle really was, and realized she'd been blaming me wrongly for years. The summer I was 10, my parents were busy with business and sent me to my uncle's place. He was a gambler, and when he lost, he'd take it out on someone. Initially, it was Linda, but once I was there, I became the target. My back had scars from him whipping me with a cane. One day, after a big loss, he was still angry even after beating me and turned his sights on Linda. She suggested, "You could use her to pay your debt. Just say she ran away, no one would know." Uncle thought it was a good idea and tried to hand me over. Fortunately, I escaped and hid in the mountains. As he searched for me, he accidentally fell off a cliff and died. When the police brought my parents to find me, I ran crying into my mom's arms, thinking I was saved and could finally tell her my fears, hoping I'd never have to leave them again. But instead, Mom slapped me. After school, I reluctantly called Mom, and she picked up immediately. On the other end, I heard her sobbing. "Lily, is that you? I was wrong. All these years I was wrong. You suffered so much. Why didn't you tell me?" I laughed coldly. "How could I? When I needed you the most, you hit me instead of comforting me. I tried a few times to talk about it, but you always saw me as responsible for your brother's death. Mentioning Uncle made you glare. And another word got me another slap. I just wanted your love. I could bear all the pain. But all you saw was Linda, and you thought I was trying to hurt her by mentioning Uncle. I was just 10, a scared little girl." Mom cried harder. "Lily, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." After some sobbing, she turned on Dad. "What kind of father are you, letting our daughter suffer so much?" She blamed him too, crying that it was all his fault. Dad was speechless. He couldn't find any words of defense. Another month passed, and the weather cooled. I saw Mom at the college gate. She was bundled up, staring blankly. Her usual makeup was gone, and she seemed to have aged years overnight. They sold their house and moved near my school. Mom handed me a bank card. "Lily, we're sorry. This is all our savings. Can you forgive us?" I pushed the card back. Forgiveness or not, what's done is done. A shattered vase can't be pieced together perfectly again. Mom's mental state worsened, often fighting with Dad. She blamed him for not protecting me. But could Dad really be blameless? I still visit sometimes out of obligation. They are my parents, and before I was 10, they did love me. But a heart that's grown cold, how can it warm up again? The end.